A father took care of his paralyzed daughter for 25 years, until one day, noticing something strange, he installed cameras in his house. What he discovered left him shocked. Ivan woke up suddenly to the sound of his alarm clock. As he sat on the bed, he heard his bones creak, reminding him that he was already 65 years old. Nonetheless, he did not let his age hinder him. After getting dressed and washing his face, he went to the next room to wake up his daughter Flavia, who is 35 years old. Flavia has been unable to move her legs since a severe accident when she was 10 years old. Ivan has been taking care of her with great affection since that day. He gently called Flavia to wake her up, softly shaking her shoulder. She grumbled a little and slowly opened her eyes, her face showing an expression of a child, as if she were still 10 years old. Ivan helped Flavia into her wheelchair, which was beside the bed, and took her to the bathroom. After helping her clean up and get dressed, he brought her to the kitchen so they could have breakfast together. Over the years, Ivan had established a meticulous routine for caring for Flavia. He knew well how to move her without causing pain and how to feed her carefully, spoon-feeding her. While giving her breakfast, Ivan noticed something different, a sparkle in Flavia's eyes, as if she wanted to smile. He suddenly saw Flavia's toes move slightly under the table. It was a small movement, but Ivan was sure of what he saw. After breakfast, Ivan took Flavia outside to get some morning sun, as he did every day. They enjoyed walking through the garden and breathing in the fresh air, but on this day, Ivan kept a close eye on Flavia, looking for more strange signs. He noticed her fingers moving a little and a barely noticeable change in the way she sat. That night, after putting Flavia to bed, Ivan stayed awake, thinking. He began to wonder if it was possible that Flavia wasn't truly paralyzed. Had she been pretending all this time? Ivan scolded himself for thinking such thoughts, but the doubt was already in his mind. Ivan woke up early, as he did every day, even feeling the weight of his 65 years and the common aches and pains of his age. But the physical pains were nothing compared to the sadness he felt inside. Ivan had lived alone with his daughter Flavia since a car accident took the lives of his wife and other daughter. Since the accident, Ivan had dedicated himself entirely to caring for Flavia, who had suffered very severe injuries and could no longer move her legs. The doctors had run many tests on Flavia and concluded that she would never walk again. Ivan had no doubt that the doctors were right. The doctors were certain, but something inside him told him to stay vigilant because something seemed off. Ivan went to Flavia's room to start another day of caring for her, but this day would be different. Ivan knew his daughter very well and could interpret every look and gesture. When he saw a different sparkle in her eyes and a slight movement in her toes, he knew something significant was happening. Ivan felt the cold ceramic floor under his feet as he went to the bathroom to do his morning routine. He moved slowly, feeling the weight of his years. Afterward, he went to Flavia's room to wake her and start the long process of getting her up, bathing her, and dressing her, a routine he had followed for many years. "Good morning, Flavia," Ivan said, trying to sound cheerful as he opened the curtains to let in the light. Flavia grumbled, shielding her eyes from the brightness. Her hair was messy, and the room smelled bad because of the soiled sheets. He sighed, placed Flavia in the wheelchair, and took her to the bathroom. There, he undressed her carefully, trying not to look too much at her injured body, and put her in the shower. Flavia groaned when the hot water touched her skin. "Don't cry, we're almost done," Ivan reassured her. After rinsing her off, he gently combed her hair, a skill honed over years of practice. Flavia had a distant look in her eyes, murmuring words Ivan couldn't understand. He placed her back in the wheelchair and took her to the kitchen where he fed her breakfast. Taking care of her, cleaning her mouth when necessary, was a routine done with love, but doubts were growing within Ivan. After leaving Flavia watching TV in the living room, he went to his room and retrieved some old boxes filled with photos, newspaper clippings, and articles about the accident that happened 25 years ago. He wanted to find something that could either confirm or dispel his suspicions. Seeing the photos of his deceased wife and daughter brought him immense sadness. Among the memories, he found the newspaper clipping of the accident, a car crashing into a truck with his wife driving and Flavia in the back seat, who survived but was left paralyzed. Reliving the pain of those hospital moments and Flavia's tears, Ivan questioned why he was doubting now after all this time. Perhaps it was just exhaustion. He put everything away and had lunch with Flavia, feeding her as usual. Afterward, he put her back to bed to rest and went to lie down himself, feeling a severe headache. After a nap that lasted until the afternoon, Ivan went to Flavia's room and was startled to find she was not there. The wheelchair was also missing. Out of breath, he ran through the house calling for her until he found Flavia in the backyard, sitting and looking at the plants. "Flavia, what are you doing out here?" Ivan asked, alarmed. Flavia was startled by the question, looking confused at Ivan and trying to say something that didn't make sense. Ivan realized that Flavia didn't seem concerned about being out of bed. After calming down, Ivan brought Flavia back inside without saying a word and placed her in front of the TV, where she stayed for the rest of the day. That night, Ivan couldn't sleep, preoccupied with what had happened. He couldn't stop wondering if Flavia had been frightened when he found her. Could it be that Flavia had been faking her condition all this time? How could Ivan dispel this doubt from his mind? The next morning, Ivan took action. He left Flavia with a nurse who visited a few times a week and went shopping for hidden cameras to place around the house to monitor Flavia when he wasn't there. Ivan felt guilty for doubting his daughter, but needed to know the truth. That night, after Flavia was asleep, he installed the hidden cameras in key areas of the house and connected them to a tablet in his room so he could observe everything without Flavia noticing. Ivan went to bed anxious, eager to uncover what he needed to know. The next morning, Ivan woke up with anticipation and quickly checked the tablet. He reviewed the recordings from the night and saw nothing unusual. Flavia was motionless in bed, as usual. Ivan felt a bit more at ease. Thinking he might be overreacting, Ivan made coffee and went to wake Flavia, who was lying in bed staring at the ceiling. "Good morning, Flavia. Time to get up," Ivan said as he opened the curtains. Flavia blinked, disoriented by the light, and murmured a few words. Ivan helped her into her wheelchair and took her to the bathroom to wash. He didn't notice anything unusual while bathing and dressing her. She appeared just as passive and distant as always. After the bath, he brought her to the kitchen, served breakfast, and after wiping her mouth, placed her in front of the TV. He went back to his room to check the cameras, feeling a bit foolish for doubting his own daughter, but needing to be certain. To his surprise, the footage revealed something unbelievable. Shortly after Ivan left, Flavia stopped murmuring, and her face changed to one of clarity and awareness. She managed to get up with effort and walk to the bathroom, touching her face and hair in the mirror as if assessing herself. She then returned to her wheelchair and resumed her distant expression, just in time for Ivan to come back. Ivan was shocked and bewildered. His suspicions were confirmed. Flavia had been deceiving him all along. Why? How long had this been going on? Had Flavia been pretending to be paralyzed since the accident, or did it start later? Ivan was overwhelmed with anger, confusion, and sadness. He considered lighting a cigarette to calm himself, even though he had quit. Having quit smoking years ago, Ivan realized he needed more evidence before confronting Flavia. He spent the day watching the tablet, seeing Flavia do things she shouldn't have been able to do, like stretching her legs, standing near the refrigerator, and using furniture for support to walk. Ivan couldn't believe that after 25 years of caring for Flavia under the assumption she couldn't walk, she had been able to all along. He felt deceived and began to wonder if Flavia had been mocking him all this time. That night, after putting Flavia to bed, Ivan lay awake, restless, pondering what to do. Part of him wanted to confront Flavia immediately and demand an explanation, but his rational side advised caution and suggested gathering more evidence before any confrontation. He even considered speaking with a lawyer the next morning. Ivan's anger faded by morning, replaced by sadness. He wondered how things had come to this point and how his daughter had changed so much to maintain such a significant lie for so long. He remembered Flavia as a cheerful, energetic little girl and questioned what had transformed her into a woman who could deceive him. Deciding to change his approach, Ivan resolved to understand why Flavia had pretended to be paralyzed. That day, he treated her with more kindness, trying to look beyond the false disability. During lunch, he attempted to talk to Flavia, asking her questions. He asked how she was feeling and if she needed anything. Flavia only murmured incoherently, but Ivan thought he saw sadness in her eyes. After lunch, instead of putting her in front of the TV, Ivan took Flavia outside to enjoy some sunlight together. He told stories about when Flavia was a child, the games they used to play, and her infectious laughter. He spoke of her mother and how much he loved Flavia. Though Flavia remained silent, a tear rolled down her cheek. At night, Ivan carefully placed Flavia in bed, tucked her in gently, and turned off the light. He left the tablet on, but was no longer interested in the recordings. What he wanted was to reconnect with Flavia. Over the following days, Ivan spent more time with her, taking her for walks in the park, reading children's stories, and showing her old photos. He noticed Flavia seemed more engaged and responsive. One day, while looking through a photo album, Flavia touched a picture of the two of them and murmured, "Mommy, Daddy." Ivan was deeply moved. It was the first time Flavia had spoken coherently in years. With tears in his eyes, he embraced her, saying, "I love you." In that moment, Ivan realized that exposing the lie wasn't as important as rebuilding his relationship with his daughter. He knew that with time, Flavia would open up and reveal the truth about her supposed paralysis. For now, he simply wanted to cherish the time they had together. For the first time in years, Ivan felt hopeful in his daughter's company. As weeks went by, the bond between Ivan and Flavia grew slowly but steadily. Flavia was becoming more communicative and expressive in her father's presence, and even began to speak a few words again. Ivan stopped checking the hidden camera recordings, feeling it was wrong to spy on Flavia. He wanted to rebuild their trust and focused on interacting directly with her without the use of cameras. One morning after breakfast, Ivan took Flavia to the backyard to enjoy the spring sunshine. The sky was clear and the birds were singing. "What a beautiful day, isn't it, my dear?" Ivan said. Flavia opened her eyes and murmured something unintelligible to Ivan. He knew her recovery would take time and that he needed to be patient. When they went back inside and passed by the mirror, Flavia looked at her reflection and seemed more attentive. "You look great, Flavia," Ivan said, trying to lift her spirits, and commented on how her hair was still as unruly as in her childhood. Flavia glanced at him and gave a small smile which touched Ivan deeply. After lunch, Ivan was taking Flavia to her room for a rest when she grasped his arm and said, "Daddy," in a faint voice. Ivan was deeply moved, as it had been years since she called him that. "What is it, my dear?" he asked. Flavia pointed towards the window. Wanting to return to the garden, Ivan took Flavia outside near the rose bushes and told her to call if she needed anything before he went to hang up the laundry. Suddenly, Ivan heard a noise coming from the backyard and rushed over, fearing Flavia had fallen. However, what he saw was surprising. Flavia was standing, leaning against the wall, with her wheelchair tipped over beside her. It looked like she had tried to walk and had stumbled. Seeing Ivan, Flavia became alarmed. "Daughter, you can walk?" Ivan asked incredulously. Flavia didn't answer. Her legs were trembling from the effort to stay upright. She fell to the ground, and Ivan ran to help her, helping her to sit down. Flavia avoided looking him in the eye, her lip quivering. "Don't worry. I'm not angry," Ivan reassured her. "But I need you to explain what's going on." Flavia shook her head, refusing to look at him. "Please, Flavia, I know you've lied to me about your paralysis all these years. I need to understand why." Flavia then began to cry, and Ivan comforted her with an embrace, just as he had when she was younger. After she calmed down, Flavia apologized and started to tell her story. She said that after the accident that killed her mother, she woke up in the hospital unable to move. The doctors had said she might improve, but as months went by with no progress, Flavia became depressed from her limitations and hated the pity from other children. One day, she discovered she could move. Flavia secretly began training her legs by moving her toes until she could stand and walk a bit. However, being a paraplegic had become part of her identity, drawing attention and avoiding school and social interactions. Even after she was discharged, Flavia continued to pretend. What started as a temporary deception had turned into a permanent situation. She felt guilty for deceiving Ivan, but was afraid to reveal the truth. When Flavia finished explaining, Ivan, shocked, said she should have told him earlier. However, what mattered now was that he knew the truth and would help her. Flavia cried with relief and hugged him tightly. Ivan comforted her, promising they would face this situation together. That night, after dinner, they talked more, with Ivan reaffirming his love and understanding without any resentment. Flavia shared more about her fears and frustrations, and Ivan promised to arrange an appointment with a psychologist and a physical therapist to help her regain strength and stability in her legs. The next day, Ivan scheduled an appointment with Dr. Alice, a renowned psychologist, for the afternoon, and booked physical therapy sessions 3 times a week with a rehabilitation specialist. Flavia appeared nervous when informed about the appointments, but she agreed to attend the sessions after breakfast. Ivan and Flavia talked, and Ivan acknowledged her fear of such a significant change, but emphasized the importance of being strong and dedicated to overcoming the challenges. The lies and limitations Flavia had created for herself made telling the truth the hardest step. Ivan reassured her, saying, "I'm here to support you in everything. You're not alone." Flavia, emotionally grateful, expressed her desire to change. "I want to try. I can't keep living in hiding," she said. It was a significant moment for Flavia, as she was going out for the first time without having to pretend. With her hands trembling from anxiety and excitement, Ivan reassured her and helped her settle into the car, assuring her that Dr. Angela was very understanding. On the way, Flavia looked out at the world, marveling at everything she saw as if it were a new discovery. Upon arriving at the appointment, they were welcomed by Dr. Angela, who made them feel at home with her kind and welcoming demeanor. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Flavia," she said. "Here, you can feel safe to speak openly." Flavia, still shy, felt more at ease thanks to the psychologist's smile. Dr. Angela explained that the space was safe and non-judgmental, a place where Flavia could freely share her feelings. "We can talk about anything you're feeling," Dr. Angela said, and Flavia, feeling more comfortable, agreed. Dr. Angela quickly became a trusted source for Flavia. During the long session of nearly 2 hours, Flavia shared her feelings of shame, fear, and insecurity. Flavia explained how these emotions led her to pretend about her disability and how this created a difficult cycle to break. The psychologist listened attentively, asking relevant questions and emphasizing that despite the mistakes, it was crucial not to be overly self-critical. Now was the time for healing and self-discovery. Ivan also participated, receiving guidance on how to support Flavia without putting too much pressure on her. Ivan promised his unconditional support. At the end, Dr. Angela praised their progress for opening up and scheduled weekly sessions. Feeling renewed after the conversation, Flavia said, "It wasn't as difficult as I thought." Ivan agreed, feeling hopeful for the first time in a long time. After lunch, they went to Flavia's first physical therapy session with Marcelo. The clinic was equipped with various machines designed to aid in exercising different parts of the body. Marcelo, the physical therapist, was a strong and energetic man, but very friendly. He conducted a thorough examination of Flavia, noting muscle atrophy due to disuse, but assured her it could be improved with training. They started with light stretching and strengthening exercises. Flavia tired quickly, but Marcelo was patient, teaching her exercises to do at home as well. Ivan watched proudly as Flavia put in her effort. Marcelo suggested increasing her protein intake to support muscle development. By the end of the session, Flavia was tired but motivated. On the way home, she excitedly shared with her father about the exercises. The therapist said, "I'll soon be able to stand without shaking and maybe even start walking a bit," she told Ivan, who was thrilled to see his daughter so motivated. They knew the journey would be long, but they were on the right path. That night, Flavia went to bed early, exhausted. Ivan called Mrs. Rosalia, a nurse who had helped them in the past, to inform her that her services were no longer needed. She was surprised by the news, but accepted the decision. For Ivan, it was time for Flavia to become more independent, leaving another part of the past behind. In the following days, Flavia made progress, managing to stand and take a few steps. The psychologist also noticed improvements in Flavia's mood and self-esteem. However, there were moments of frustration. After a particularly challenging physical therapy session, Flavia returned home upset and shut herself in her room. The next day, Ivan, concerned, found Flavia's room empty. After searching everywhere, he called the police. They began a search, and Ivan spent the night anxiously. Fortunately, Flavia was found disoriented but safe near a park. When they reunited, Flavia apologized for running away. Ivan, relieved, embraced her. "Don't worry, we'll get through this together," Flavia reassured Ivan. He realized he needed to help Flavia build more confidence and independence. He took her to public places to help her get accustomed to the outside environment and manage her anxiety. Gradually, Flavia began to feel more comfortable around others and improved her emotional management. Dr. Angela helped Flavia understand that setbacks are a normal part of recovery and promised to always support her, which gave Flavia a lot of reassurance. As Flavia adjusted to her new situation, Ivan bought a smaller wheelchair to make outdoor outings easier, which significantly aided her recovery. The progress in physical therapy with Marcelo, who introduced weights and resistance bands, was impressive. Flavia was now able to stand and walk with a walker. Noticing her improvement, Marcelo suggested to Ivan that Flavia try walking on her own. Ivan, excited, shared the idea with Flavia, who, though nervous, accepted the challenge. In a room with space to walk, Ivan held Flavia's hands, encouraging her. Taking a deep breath, Flavia took her first steps with her father's help. Gradually gaining confidence, she eventually let go of Ivan's hands and walked across the room on her own. It was a highly emotional moment with tears of joy for both of them, celebrating a significant milestone. Over time, Flavia became more independent, walking around with increased confidence. Flavia was able to move around the house and yard on her own without needing assistance. Ivan still accompanied her to therapy sessions, but Flavia was handling many tasks independently. One day, while having tea, Flavia told Ivan she wanted to live alone. Ivan was surprised by this sudden declaration. "You're still recovering and need support," he argued, but Flavia was resolute. "I need to try living on my own now that I can. I don't want to always rely on you," she insisted. Flavia was determined to gain independence and no longer see herself as a burden, showing her desire to enter a new phase of self-sufficiency. Ivan gently held Flavia's hand, looking into her eyes with a mix of paternal love and admiration. "Flavia, you've never been and will never be a burden to me. I'm here to support you for as long as you need, but if you feel ready to forge your own path, I want you to know you have my full support. I'm incredibly proud of you," Ivan said, his voice choked with emotion. They embraced, their hug filled with love and unconditional support. Ivan felt a mix of pride in Flavia's determination and a pang of sadness at the thought of her leaving after years of struggles and achievements together. The idea of not sharing their daily lives weighed heavily on his heart. However, he understood it was crucial to let Flavia carve out her own path and live her life. Over the years, Flavia truly became a free spirit, as Ivan often described. She found someone special, got engaged, and was building her own story, filled with love and independence. On one particularly quiet night, Ivan had a vivid dream about his late wife. In the dream, she embraced him tenderly, smiling with that familiar look of gratitude and love he remembered so well. She thanked him for everything he had done, expressing her pride in his strength and dedication as a father. This dream brought Ivan a sense of peace and closure, as if he had received the approval he had always sought, a sign that despite the challenges and uncertainties, he had taken the right path in raising Flavia with such love and devotion. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to leave your thoughts about the story in the comments below.